Proszę Państwa,
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the process of building a special program for Krakow, a program for the protection against electromagnetic fields. The focus here is to try to change the current situation in this context. The general background here with regards to this environment protection against electromagnetic fields, we had a number of events we took into account. Since 2007, first of all, there are more and more protests of local residents here in Krakow against the location of new mobile telephony base stations at top of buildings where they live on masts in the neighborhood. Secondly, over the recent years, there's very little information made available to residents on the location of such base stations in the neighborhoods. Local authorities have very little say on the location. Just notification is the way in which mobile telephony companies operate. It's not acceptable, in my view, with the risk that is involved with such infrastructure. All those issues have led to some disquiet in the city council in Krakow. Marta Patena, member of the council, spoke on this. 3 resolutions on the internet are available. They are available on the internet on this very issue. Let me just remind you of some key issues. First of all, in Poland, some time ago, a decision was taken to cover base stations for mobile phones and as all other sources of electromagnetic radiation. They are part of such projects that may have a direct, serious impact on the environment, and investors actually were forced to involve local population and impact assessments. 2 such regulations were issued in 2002, 2004. They were quite restrictive. There was one criterion there for base stations. One criterion, the radiation, the power. If it was bigger than the minimum value, always this procedure had to be launched. But unfortunately, this was changed. Then the year 2007 occurred, the regulation was changed, and there's one criterion that qualified for impact assessments to be conducted. There are now 2 criteria. The radiation, isotope radiation, isotrope, and another criterion, the distance from the source of radiation along the main axis of radiation. And this changed a lot. Actually, this limited the number of studies where such impact assessments had to be conducted, and where those procedures with local residents had to be launched. Over a period of 3 years, actually, the local operators realized that still much remains to be done. And now, as there are judgments of local administrative courts and national administrative courts showing that the 2007 regulation makes it possible to see in space the radiation. And then what happened? Actually, one word was struck out, along, the word along the axis. And the new phrase is that the straight line is taken into account from the main axis, in the axis, not along the axis. And actually, this changed physics, as if There is just reference of the middle section of the antenna and straight line. These are the results of the fact that people do not learn properly physics. Physics is almost gone from schools, and these are the results of complete failure in actually learning physics. Unfortunately, I have to say that this concerns the Polish Ministry of Environment, unfortunately. So what happened? Actually, basically no environment impact assessments are done for this type of installation. There is no local resident participation, no information is passed on to the local residents. People just find out at the last moment when the investment actually is launched. They find out about what happens. I will not go perhaps more into detail here. You just have to make it clear that this current situation cannot be brought in line with the precautionary principle and prevention principle, together with the principle of public participation that is clearly written into the Polish Constitution. What is more, in the ecological policy of Poland 2009 until 2016, what is written there is the reliable impact assessment of the population for noise and electromagnetic fields, and steps need to be taken to limit such threats wherever the threats are the greatest. And now what happens? The regional inspectorates of environment protection, they do deal with electromagnetic fields. They are involved in monitoring according to the monitoring action of the central level. What are the results of those studies? In annual reports, you can analyze those reports. I actually compared the results with what one of the operators actually made available to me. I'm not going to use the name because the operator might be in trouble. The results actually of mobile phone operators are very much different from those in the documents of the Voivodeship administration or regional administration of environment protections. The methods applied might be different. The measurements applied by the regional administration and the mobile operators. So in Warsaw and in Krakow, actually the measurements are very much different, and the measurements of the mobile phone operators, the values are much higher than those from the reports of the Environment Protection Administration. For the years 2005-12, already at that program, we can read the electromagnetic fields are part of what is called city smog. Together with other factors, they have an influence on human life, especially in urban areas, industrialized areas. The reason related to limited studies about the impact of electromagnetic fields on human health. It is necessary to collect more information on such impact, so that the location of sources of this type of radiation, so that conflicts are avoided and they're not located near human residents. This is one of the issues that have to be taken into account, and although people are not aware of that, such stations have impact on human health. These are documents from our region, actually, and the different measures that were to be taken. Avoiding conflicts, such I mentioned, such base stations should be part of the local development plans. Studies should be continued to assess the scale of threats and so on and so forth. As for legal issues, if we have a local spatial development plan and if locations of base stations are mentioned there, actually it's not a problem for investors at all. Because today the decision for such locations, such decisions are easily issued. One can plan something, but it doesn't really matter. The local council might perhaps pass such decisions, issue plans, but then actually one businessman can actually change a lot. They can plan their installations, and there is not much that the local community can do in this country. So then another decision was taken, a local program for Krakow, and one of the main objectives of this program was to collect detailed information, detailed data on artificial electromagnetic fields in the city of Krakow, to assess the possible threats related to the exposure of local community, and then to issue further projects or programs to protect against electromagnetic fields, which is to improve the quality of life for residents. If we have no information on the radiation, there is no way in which we'll be able to correlate what happens with the conditions of health of residents, with what happens with this health. Monitoring, in my view, should be the very foundation of such measures. For this reason, when preparing this program, we have decided to apply the following methodology. First of all, we want to conduct a diagnosis of the current situation regarding radiation in the environment. So we need to identify, first of all, the sources of radiation, to have detailed information on the sources of radiation. Then we should delineate such areas where there is greater than average exposure to radiation. Then to analyze the possible, in some cases possible, in other cases evident results of exposure to electromagnetic fields of high frequency. Then, in order to do a proper diagnosis of the situation, we conducted an analysis of the legal situation concerning radiation for the whole of EU, then Polish legislation, and we also compared it to other countries, in some cases for other cities. Then we have formulated the main goals, the objectives to be achieved, and here what is very important are the following elements. In our plan, we have defined the methods to be used and the procedures where individual measurements would be done for electromagnetic fields. We indicate the methodology and procedure for simulation analysis for electromagnetic fields. Then we draw up the main assumptions for a city monitoring for electromagnetic fields. Then we prepare the main principles and modus operandi for prevention and education measures. And then we propose changes to the Polish legislation. So these are the main goals, and then there will be sub-goals, sub-objectives, structures for financing and principles for monitoring of the very program. I do hope that such document, once it is ready, but not only document actually, because we will have quite detailed studies available. They are being prepared presently. Hopefully, once we have final results, we will be able to help us so that the city of Krakow is able to undertake a strategy that will take years, I admit, but hopefully it should result in better protection of residents of Krakow against electromagnetic fields. Thank you very much for your attention.